would be Monday or Thursday. Monday or Thursday would be the day of the Yom HaKnisa. There's other explanations given in the Rishonim. Let's see. Okay, so there's other explanations given in the Rishonim. I think the two other main mahalchim is that on what do we know about Yom Chamishi and Yom Sheni. Today we didn't read the Torah because we didn't go to shul, and just give a further chizuk, as the Rabbanim in each community have said, a person should not go to shul, and he also should not try to make a minyan in his backyard or in his house. Just we're asked to be mechazik these shas adchak tekanos that were made by the local Rabbanim. You should try to follow them to our best ability. I know it's difficult not to daven with the minyan, to daven at home, but generally on Monday and Thursdays we read from the Torah. So also people who lived in the kfarim, who lived in the smaller villages, they would go to the bigger cities where there were more Bekius, more people who knew how to read the Torah, and they would go in to hear the Torah reading on Monday and Thursday. So that's the other mahachim in the Rishonim of why they would be there anyways on Monday and Thursday. So that's why they also allowed them to make earlier the Kriyas and Megiila, to hear the Megiila. That was for the Kfarim. It was a special schus. So now the Mishnah is going to go through all the different scenarios of how you get to Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Gimel. And I'm just going to screen share for a second so that I have a chart. So it gets a little bit confusing. So 1 second. Okay. Do you guys see that? Yeah? Thumbs up if you see the chart.
No.
You don't see the chart. Okay. 1 second. One second.
What do we say Hamukafin meant?
Mukafin means surrounded. Mukafin bechoma, surrounded by a wall. Okay, now it's not letting me get back to you either. So, okay, 1 second. Try this one more time. If not, then you see the chart?
Now it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so, all right, so now we're going to continue on the Mishnah. You could use this chart as a reference to help. It's a little bit confusing. Ketzad, how does it come out? How do we have Purim falling out on Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, Yud Daled, and Tesvav? Chalios Yud Daled B'Sheni. So if Yud Daled, if the day of Purim, Yud Daled Ba'adar falls out on Monday, so that's the first row in the chart, that Yud Daled falls out on Monday, that's already a Yom HaKnisa. So since it's already Yom HaKnisa, Farim Ba'ayros Gedolos Korim Bo Bayom, Mukafos Choma Lamachar. So that's a regular Purim where you don't have to do any Akdama, you don't have to make any days of Purim earlier. The Kfarim and the Ayros Gedolos will read on Yadalit, and the Mukafos Choma will read on Tezvav. That's case number 1. Case number 2. Chalios B'Shlishi O B'Revi, Kfarim Akdimim Muyom HaKnisa, V'Ayros Gedolos Korim Bo Bayom, Mukafos Choma Lemachar. So that's, you have the second row on the chart and the third row on the chart. So either you have, let's say, Yud Dalet falls out on Tuesday, Yom Shlishi. So since that's not a Yom HaKnisa, so the Kfarim will be Makdim, will go earlier to Yud Gimel. So that's how you already have the first Yud Gimel, how you could have Purim, Megiila reading on Yud Gimel. And then the Ayros Gedolos will read on Yud Dalet, and Mukafos Choma will read on Wednesday, which is Tesvav. Okay, and that's the same thing will apply to as the third row on the chart. If Yud Dalet falls out on Wednesday, Yom Revi, so then you'll have the Kfarim reading on Yom Knisa, which is Monday, 2 days earlier, so that's Yud Bet. Now we know how you have Yud Bet and Yud Gimel, and then Iris Gedolos will read on Yud Daled, and Mukavas Choma will read the next day on Thursday, on Thursday, and that will be Tesvav. Okay? Now, says the Mishnah, Chalios b'chamishi. Now what happens if Purim falls out on Chamishi, on Thursday? Kfarim virus Gedolos Korim Bo B'yom. Now again, this is the same din as if it falls out on Monday. Since Yud Daled already fell out on Yom Knisa, so the Kfarim and the Iris Gedolos will read on the same day, and that's Thursday. That's the next row on the chart that they'll read on Erev Shabbos, and Mukavas Choma will read on Erev Shabbos. Now, what happens if Purim falls out on Erev Shabbos? Chalios Erev Shabbos. If Yud Daled is on Erev Shabbos, Kfarim Makdimim Yom Knisa, Iris Gedolos, Mukavas Choma Korim Bo Bayom. So now you have Purim fell on Erev Shabbos. So the Kfarim who don't read on Friday, they'll be Makdim Yom Knisa. So that's the line of the chart. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth line of the chart where Yud Daled fell out on Yom HaShishi. So since you're not allowed to read the Megiila on Purim, since you're not allowed to read the Megiila on Shabbos, as we'll see later on, there's different reasons given the Gemara. The most famous reason is we're scared that you're going to take the Megiila and carry it in public. It's called Gzer de Rabbah. You're going to go and carry it in public, and you might go and teach. You might go and carry it to someone to learn how to read the Megiila. So we're concerned. So they were mevatel Megiila on Shabbos. If Purim ever falls out on Shabbos, which nowadays it doesn't, the way the calendar works out, it never falls out on Shabbos. And in such a case, if it does fall out on Shabbos, so Yud Daled and the Mukavas Choma will read on Yud Daled, so that's Friday, and the Kfarim will be makdim to Thursday. That's what it says over here. Now, what happens Chalios b'Shabbos? Let's say Yud Daled falls out on Shabbos. So now, Kfarim v'Iris Gedolos makdimim v'korim l'yom ha'knisa. The Kfarim and the Iris Gedolos will be makdim to Thursday. Now, why don't the Iris Gedolos just read on Friday? So that's what the Gemara over later on is going to say, that since already Chazal had to uproot the day of Purim and move it earlier, they said that they might as well move it to the Yom HaKnisa so that you'll have the Kfarim and the Iris Gedolos all reading on the same day, so that no one will read on Friday. Everyone, the Kfaros and Iris Gedolos will all read on Thursday. And Kavos Choma will read on the regular day, and that's Sunday. Chalios Acher Shabbos. This is the last line. What happens if Yud Daled falls out on Sunday? Kfarim Makdimim L'Yom HaKnisa. So this is how now you get to the fifth day that you could possibly read the Megiila, and that is Yom HaKnisa. That's Thursday. That's going to be Yud Aleph. Iris Gedolos Korim Bo Bayom. Mukavas Choma L'Machar. And Mukavas Choma will read on Yom Sheni. So that's the Mishnah. That's how you have everybody reading on Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet, Tesvav. Obviously, nowadays this doesn't happen anymore. The way that we have our calendar arranged is that Purim usually it never falls out on a Shabbos, and also we don't have this concept of Kfarim, or we don't have Baruch Hashem. We have in every community at least one person who knows how to read Megiila. So this doesn't really come up anymore. It's not really shaykh, but in their days it was very shaykh that people would be reading Megiila for 5 days in a row. Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet, Tesvav. Up until now, maybe we'll stop for questions if anyone has questions on the Mishnah.
When you say chalios that Purim's going to fall out, it's not always going to be. You're not always counting it as Yud Daled.
What do you mean?
Because if you never mind, I'm very confused.
No, it's okay. Repeat the question.
No, because if you follow that every single time chalios is Yud Daled, then you're going to end up with the same situation. Because if you say chalios Yud Daled, if you say chalios shlishi or revi, that means Tuesday or Thursday. What is that? Shlishi or revi is Tuesday, Wednesday, right?
Right.
So that means Purim falls out on a Tuesday or Wednesday, which is Yud Daled, correct?
Right.
And that means you're going to be going the day before for Yom Knisa.
Right. If it's on Tuesday, so then that means you're going the day before. If it's on Wednesday, so that means you're going 2 days before. So that's how you get to That's how you get
Oh,
your
okay,
ben
got it.
Megiila.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay. Now, just before we continue on to the Gemara, the question is, why is there a difference between Iros Gedolos and Mukavos Choma? Why do we have 2 days of Purim? It's a very fundamental question. The Rishonim ask it as such a strong question, and they deal with this, is usually in Klal Yisrael, we like to do everything together. The more achdus we have, the less lotus go to do. Having different groups of people doing different things that's not a good thing. We want everyone to do everything together. So why Dafka on Purim is there an idea to have Yudalid, that we have some people are reading on Yudalid, and people who have a wall are reading on Tezvav. So there's 2 approaches, which are 2 answers, which are given to this question. And one is a fascinating, and the reason why I wanted to share it with you is the Ramban gives us a little history lesson. This, I wasn't aware until I read this Ramban, but he said that at the time of Purim, we think that everybody was living in Persia. Everyone was living under the rules, under the kingship of Achashverosh. He says that's not exactly true. He says a little history lesson that he says there was already Jews living in Eretz Yisrael. There was Jews who already returned to Eretz Yisrael, and when they went back with Ezra in the second return, going back to Eretz Yisrael, that was a minority of the Jewish people. So he says that since it was only a minority of the Jewish people who were living in Persia, so he says that most of them who were affected by the whole Gezerah of Haman were people who lived in Prazim, people who lived in smaller cities. And for them, the main simcha was that they were able to rest in Yud Dalet. It was only for this one city of Shushan, who obviously that was where the main story of Purim happened. It was only for this one city of Shushan, who their resting day was on the day of the 15th. But he said, but most of Klal Yisrael really rested on Yud Dalet. So Yud Dalet made a lot more sense to have the day of Purim. And he said for many years after the whole Purim story, there was only Purim and Yud Dalet. Only much later, when Chazal, the Anshe Knesset Gdola, which we'll speak a little bit more today about who the Anshe Knesset Gdola were, only later on, when the Anshe Knesset Gdola realized that it should be a mitzvah for all of Klal Yisrael, and they realized that also people who were in walled cities, like in Shushan, were also very much affected. So then they added on the 15th as a day of Purim. So that's why you have something special that you don't have by any other Chag, where you have people doing different things. So he says by Purim, you have Yud Dalet, which was the Iker day, the day that they originally celebrated Purim, the people who were in much bigger danger. And then later on, they added on Tezvav for the people like Shushan who were in walled cities. Okay, now moving on to the...
Wait.
Yes.
So when they said that all the whole Jewish people are going to be destroyed, is that actually true that all the Jews are going to be destroyed if people are living in Eretz Yisrael already?
Yes, according to this Ramban, it was only the people that were really living under the ruleship of Achashverosh, not the people that went back to Eretz Yisrael already. Yeah, that's why I was very surprised when I read this. Yeah.
I have a question also. When we say that the waltz that the mukafin would be that they read it on if it's fall down Shabbos, they read it on that day on Friday. So why isn't that they also go back to the Yom Knisa, just like we say by the big cities, that they go back to Yom Knisa when it does fall on Shabbos for them also?
Oh, so that's an excellent question. The Gemara is going to deal with that. There actually is an opinion in the Gemara. It's a machlokas in the Gemara. We'll see. I think it's maybe even on the next daf or in 2 daf, where there is an opinion that says that once you're uprooting also the mukafos choma, if it comes out for them, Tesvav comes out on Shabbos, you also are makdim to the Yom HaKnesset to Thursday. That's a good question. That's going to be a machlokas of the Rishonim. And when we get to that, so there's a nice explanation of the Sfas Emes about why there's a difference in the opinions, and that'll answer your question. A good question. Okay, so now we're going to move on, B'ezrat Hashem, to the Gemara. The Gemara says, Megiila nikres b'yud aleph minolan. What is the word minolan? Whenever we have the word minolan in the Gemara, it's looking for a biblical source, or a source from some type of psukim, some type of earlier source of how do you know that you can do a certain din. So here the question is, how do you know that you could read the Megilah on Yud Aleph? How come it doesn't ask why you could read the Megilah on Yud Dalet and Tezvav? How come that's not a question? Because like we said at the beginning, like the Torah or brings down the pasuk, that's all over the. If you read through the 9th parak of Esther, as we read last week, it all speaks about reading the Megillah and celebrating Purim on Yudal and Tezvav. So that's why the Gemara's question over here is, where did Chazal see that you could read the Megillah on Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Gimel? That's not anywhere in the Psukim. So says the Gemara says, I'm going to answer your question with another question. Minalan. So Minalan, the second Minalan is a bitmia. And a bitmia is, Rashi sometimes will say bitmia, is that the question is asking, how can you ask such a question? Like the Gemara gives us the reason later on. Chachamim hikilu al kfarim lios makdimim liyom haknisa k'dei sheyisapku mayim umazon lachem shebekrachim. So like we said earlier, that the reason why the kfarim were allowed to read on Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Gimel is so that because they were the ones that provided food for the big cities. They provided food for the big cities. So if we made them read Megiila on Purim, so that means that they would be busy providing food for the people who lived in the big cities, and they wouldn't have enough time to read Megiila. And even if they did set some time to read Megiila for themselves, that would very much take away from their simcha of Purim, because they're going to be listening to Megiila, and they're also going to have to provide food for all the big cities. So it's really going to take away from their Purim. So the Gemara is asking, why are you even asking me the question? Why do you need a source in the Psukim of where you could read from it? How do you know that you can read Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Gimel? It's a later on takana by the Chachamim that it's true that the Psukim say Yud Aleph and Tezvav is the day to read Megillah, but the Chachamim later on saw that there was a need for Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Gimel for the Kfarim. So says the Gemara, Anan Hachli Kamrina. This is what we were asking. We weren't asking the reason for it. The reason for it's so that they would be able to provide food. Michti kulu anshe knesses agadola tikninhu. Right? We know that the whole Megillah, all the mitzvahs of Megillah and on Purim, was all instituted by anshe knesses agadola. The Isa kadaitach anshe knesses agadola yedalid v'tezvav tikon asun rabbanan v'ikri taknasna tikinu anshe knesses agadola. Because now that we know that Anshe Knesset Gedolah were the ones that were involved in instituting the Megillah, by the way, who was one of the members of Anshe Knesset Gedolah? Mordechai. Mordechai was one of the 120 members of Anshe Knesset Gedolah. I'm going to try to, if this works, I'm going to try to do another screen share to little information on Anshe Knesset Gedolah. Zrat Hashem, for next time I'll learn how to do this better.
Wasn't he the Nasi at the time?
He was. I don't think he was the Nasi. No, he was actually the Gemara. Later on, we'll learn that Mordechai was actually one of the lower members of Anshe Knesset Gedolah. He wasn't. He wasn't the head of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. A second, I'm just going to try to pull it up. If it works. If not, it doesn't. Makes sense, no? Okay. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So who were these Anshe Knesset Gedolah? So first, the Anshe Knesset Gedolah were people who started from the Bayit Sheni. They were 120 men from the times of the Bayit Sheni. That was from the very beginning of the Bayit Sheni. That's 516 BCE. So that was already started from before the Purim story. And I'm sorry, it was started after the Purim story, because we know the Purim story happened in between the first temple and the second temple, including this Anshe Knesset Gedolah, who also made the tefillah that we daven every day, was also Nevi'im, Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi. And Mordechai was one of the members. So that's significant for us to know, because when we talk about Anshe Knesset Gedolah being Mitake in the days of the Megillah, so that was Mordechai. Mordechai was on the Anshe Knesset Gedolah. So let's continue on with the Gemara. The Gemara says that if the Anshe Knesset Gedolah were Mitakin, that you could only read on Yudalad and Tezvav, Asur Rabbanan ve'akre taknasa dektiknu Anshe Knesset Gedolah. How could the later on Rabbanan make a takana and be ma'aker and uproot the earlier takana of Anshe Knesset Gedolah? Mahatnan, we have a Mishnah. Ein Beis Din Yachol Levatel Divrei Beis Din Chavero, Ela Im Kein Gadol Mimenu B'Chachma Minyan. We have a general rule, we all know this rule, that a Beis Din is not able to be mevatel, cannot cancel, cannot nullify a previous ruling of an earlier Beis Din, unless the later Beis Din is bigger in gadol, is bigger in chachma uben minyan. It has a greater wisdom and has greater numbers. So if you see over here, there's the machlokes. Also, I put it on the screen. It's machlokes. What does it mean chachma? So chachma means chachma, obviously in Torah knowledge. So what does that mean chachma and Torah knowledge? So that's machlokes, the Rambam and the Radbaz. The Rambam says that there was a head of a Beis Din. Every Beis Din had a head of Beis Din, the smartest person on the Beis Din. The Rambam says that all you need is for the head of the Beis Din to have more wisdom than the previous head of the earlier Beis Din to be mevatel. And the Radbaz says that no, it's a combination of the whole Beis Din together. You have to evaluate if the whole Beis Din together were smarter than the earlier Beis Din. And minyan means number. So what exactly does that mean, number? Each Beis Din has a set amount of people on it. So what does it mean, number? So that's machlokas also. The Rav Bar Tanura, the parish on the Mishnayos. So he writes the minyan is how many talmidim they had. Everyone on Beis Din had a certain amount of talmidim, so you count how many talmidim they had. That is the opinion of the Rav Bar Tanura, and the Radbaz says that no, it's minyan hashanim. It's how old they were. You take the collective age of how old they were. If people were much older on the later Beis Din, so then they have the right to be mevatel an earlier Beis Din if they were younger in age. And you need both of the conditions. Without chachma, even if you have minyan, it doesn't work. And if you just have minyan and you don't have chachma, so that also doesn't work. So that's what the question over here is of the Mishnah, that Anshe Knesset Gdola, when Mordechai was on the Anshe Knesset Gdola, were matakin Yudal and Tezvav. So you need a certain remez, you need a certain source in the psukim in order to allow for Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Gimel to also be read on. It can't be a later takana of Chazal. Okay? Yes? All right. So, yeah.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Of course.
It uses the word livatel to take away, but the chachamim, it's not like they're taking away like from what the Anshe Knesset Hagadol said. It's just they're adding on Yud Aleph through Yud Gimel. So why does it use that language?
So I think they're also taking away because if you read on Yud Aleph, that means you're not reading on Yud Daled. Anyone who's being makdim is not reading on the right day. It's like taking the lulav 3 days before Sukkot and not taking it on Sukkot. Then you never shook lulav. So it's the same thing. If you do it too early, you miss the day. That's being mevatel Purim. That means you didn't read Megiila on Purim. So the Gemara asks, Heicher Miza, where is the remez in the psukim? There must be some type of hint in the psukim that you could also do Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Gimel. So this is the machlokes between Rav Shimon bar Abba and the name of Rav Yochanan, and the Gemara brings down later Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani. Rav Shimon bar Abba, Amar Rav Yochanan, Amar Kra, L'kaimas Yimei HaPurim Ha'ile B'zmaneihem. So if you look also in the Torah or Hashalim, he brings down L'kaimas Yimei HaPurim Ha'ile B'zmaneihem, Kasher Kiyem Alehem Mordechai Yehudi V'Esther HaMalka, Kasher Kimu Al Nasham Ha'azarim Divrei Atzumos V'Za'akasam. So this is the institution of Mordechai and Esther to read the Megiila. The previous pasuk, which we don't have in the Torah, or speaks about reading the Megiila on Yudal and Tesvav. So the next pasuk is that they made an institution. You have to keep the days of Purim bizmanehem. So the Gemara picks up on this word bizmanehem, this keyword bizmanehem. So he says, why does it use the word bizmanehem? Why does it say plural bizmanehem? So says the Gemara, zmanim harbe tiknu lehem. It means that they also were mataking other days. That's the hint. The hint is that they were mataking them many days. So the Gemara says, but that's not true. What you need the plural lashon of zmanehem, hum b'ayle legufe, because how many days of Purim are there written in the psukim? 2. There's Yud Daled and there's Tezvav. So it would make sense for it to write b'zmanehem. So says the Gemara, im kain lemakra zman, ma zmanehem, zmanim tuva. Right? So the Gemara says that yes, it's true that you need the word zman over there, but you could have got away with using the word zman without writing plural, since the pasuk before wrote beferish Yudalin and Tezvav, So then it's obvious. I know for sure that when we say Zman in the next pasuk, it's referring to the Zman in the earlier pasuk. That's Yudal and Tezvav. So it says the Gemara, okay, very nice. But if it could have just wrote, one second, last place. If it could have just wrote Zman, so what's Zmanehem? Zmanim Tuva. So that's coming to teach us this drasha again, that you could also read on other days, Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Gimel. Says the Gemara, Vakati mebayilei Zmanu shazeh lokas Zmanu shazeh. Yeah, but you need the drasha of Zmanehem to teach you that Yud Dalet is not like Tezvav. What does it mean Yud Dalet is not like Tezvav? It means that you don't have permission to choose whichever one you want. You can't say, listen, this year I want to read, I'm in the mood to get drunk on Tezvav and not Yud Dalet. So you say, okay, so I'm going to keep Purim on Tezvav. Or the opposite, you say, listen, I'm not ready. I want to do Purim already. So I want Zrizas, Magdim, Mitzvos. I'm going to do it on Yud Dalet. So says the Gemara learns out later in the drasha that you cannot choose which Purim you do. Zmanim shazeh, lo zmanim shazeh. Whichever day you're supposed to keep Purim, that's the day you have to keep. So says the Gemara, Imkain lema kraz zmanam. So it could have just written zmanam. My zmanehem. Why did it have to use the extra yud hey? Why do we need an extra yud hey in the pasuk? Shmas mina kulahu. So there, from this extra yud and hey, the Gemara learns out all these days. Ema zmanim tuva. So then the Gemara says, but maybe now we can learn out many more days. Why does it limit it to just these 5 days of Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet, Vav? Maybe it's many days. Maybe I could read it on Yud. I could read it on Tes. Says the Gemara, Zmanihem, Dumya de Zmanom. That Zmanihem has to be similar to Zmanom. Ma Zmanom Trey. Just like the Zmanom, the extra Mem comes to include 2. Av Zmanihem, the extra Yud and Hey, Trey comes to include 2 as well. The Ema, so now the question is, which 2 days is it coming to include? The Ema, Tresar, V'Tleisar, maybe it's coming to include 12 and 13, and we don't have 11. Maybe, how do we know 11? So that's like the Gemara answers, K'da Amar of Shmuel bar Yitzchak, Yud Gimel Zman Kehila L'Cholhi. V'lo Tzarech L'Rivuyeh, Hachanami Yud Gimel Zman Kehila L'Cholhi, V'lo Tzarech L'Rivuyeh. So says the Gemara, that no, you don't need a pasuk you don't need a remes from the Psukim for Yud Gimel, because Yud Gimel was a Zman Kehila. What is Zman Kehila? So if you look at the Rashi over here takes up both columns. If you look at the Rashi on the left column, it's the second Rashi. He writes, Akol nikalu linakim oevehem beim b'shusham beim shar makomos. On the 13th, that was the day where they all got together to take revenge on their enemies. That's where they started the war. So says the Gemara, if that's the day where they started the war, so it's pashut that's the day that you could read the Megiila. Also, other Mefarshim say that was also the day that they had the Tainus. That was the famous day where they all got together and they had this Tainus Esther. That's the day that we actually keep as Tainus Esther. So since it's a day where they daven and they got together and their tefillas were answered, so of course that's the day that you create the Megiila. You don't need a source on the Psukim. So the Zman comes to include 2 other days. So those days are Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. So then the Gemara says, how do you know it's Yud Aleph and Yud Beis? Ema Shitsar v'Shivsar. Maybe it's the 16th and the 17th. Why are we only going to Tezvav? Why are we taking the 2 days before Yud Dalet and not the 2 days after Tezvav? So says the Gemara, that's a pasuk also you have here in the Torah, or it says, Kimu v'kiblu Yehudim aleim. The Jews accept upon themselves these days of Purim, and then the pasuk says v'lo yavor, and you shouldn't go further. So v'lo yavor ksiv, that Chazal learns out that it's Tezvav, and Tezvav is the last day. You can't go past Tezvav. So we have no choice but to say that those extra 2 days that were included over here in the Josh of Chazal from Zmanehem was Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. Yud Gimel is Zman Kehila, so that we don't need a pasuk for. So that's how you have a source for Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet, and Tezvav. Now, Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar, he has a different source. He doesn't learn out this whole drush of Zmanehem. He says, the pasuk says, Amar Kra ki Yamim, Asher Nachu Behem Yehudim, Yamim ki Yamim, L'Ravos Yud Aleph Yud Beis. The pasuk could have just used the word Yamim. Why does it have to say ki Yamim? Why does it have to say like the days? So it must be that there's days like the days of Yud Dalet and Tezvav, which you celebrate Purim on. And what is that? Just like you have 2 days of Yud Dalet and Tezvav, you have another 2 days of Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. Now the Gemara has the same Shak V'Tari as it just had before, so we'll read through it more quick. The Ema, Tresar, but Tleisar, maybe that's only talking about the 12th and the 13th. How do you know Yud Aleph? Amar Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, Yud Gimel Zman Kehila L'cholhi. Like we said before, Yud Gimel is an obvious day because that was the day that they fought against their enemies, or the day where they had Tainus Esther. The Lotzar L'Rivuya, and you don't need a special source to tell me I could read Megillah during that day. The Ema Shitsar V'Shivsar. Maybe it's you could read on the 17th, the 16th or the 17th. Below Yavor Ksiv. So that's what we have also before. The Pasuk writes below Yavor. The Tezvav is the last day. Now the Gemara wants to know why does Rav Shimon bar Abba and Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, why did they each bring two sources? Why couldn't they learn from the same source? What was the issue each one had with the other? So Gemara asks, what is Rav Shimon bar Nachmani time alone Mizmanehem? Why doesn't he learn from the drasha of Bizmanehem? That was a Gavaldik drasha, the extra Yud and the extra Hey, to teach you 2 more days. So he says, Zman, Zmanam, Zmanehem, Lo Mashmalei. He says, listen, that's a funny drasha. It doesn't sound like the puzzle is coming to learn out from the extra Yud and Hey 2 additional days. So he said that can't be the source in the Torah. So he learned that from Ki Yomin. And now comes the question of the Rav Shimon bar Abba, my time alo Amar Mikiyamim, Amar Lecha Hu Ledoros Hu Dichsev. So Rav Shimon bar Abba, why didn't he learn that from Kiyamim? So he says the whole reason why you learned the drasha of Kiyamim was because you thought that the Kiyamim was extra. You thought that it could have just said the word Yamim. Kiyamim is extra. Why does it have to use that extra chaf? So says the opinion of Rav Shimon bar Abba is you have to learn from Kiyamim is that the future generations also have to keep Purim. Just like the generations that lived in the time they lived the story of Purim, and therefore they were self-motivated to keep the Chag of Purim and to accept upon themselves the Chag of Purim. But the Kiyamim is that we also, just like they accepted upon themselves to keep this Chag of Purim, so too we also, all future generations have to accept upon ourselves to keep the Chag of Purim. So I think for today we'll stop over here, and if anyone has any questions, I'll stick around for some questions, and if anyone wants to stick around for another 5 minutes, there's to go a little deeper into the daf. We'll do that for after questions for another 5 minutes. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah.
David.
In the question of the Gemara, when it says that the Chachamim shouldn't be able to go over what the Anshe Knesset Gedola said, why are we assuming that or it's just assumed that they weren't as good as Chachma and Minyan?
Oh, very good. That? Because all the Gzeras and the Kanas of Anshe Knesset Gedola, nobody was greater in Chachma and Minyan. First of all, there were 120. There's 120 of them. And included in those 120 were the last 3 Nevi'im that ever existed. Chagi, Zechariah, and Malachi. So any Takana from the Anshe Knesset Gedola, it's Takana Ledoros, that's only in the times of Mashiach, will such a Takana be able to change. But before that, we'll never be able to change such a Takana.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, fine. So if anyone's interested, just a few ideas just to go a little deeper into the daf. Okay, just give me a second. Just out there. Oh, so some of the Ran, you have the Ran over here is on the Rif. So he says that he points out an issue of being Makdimim Yom HaKnisa. The whole reason why we're Makdim Yom HaKnisa is so that the Kfarim don't have to go back on the day of Purim on Yud Daled. If it falls out not on Yom HaKnisa, they don't have to go back to the big cities to read the Megiila. However, it only solves one issue. Yom HaKnisa was that they went in for the day. They went in on Monday and Thursday for the day. What do you do about the night reading? Right. What do you do about the night reading? So that's the Ran's question. And the Ran gives 2 answers. One answer is a little shocking. The Ran says that they didn't read at night. If you lived in a small village, you only read Megiila during the day. Now this is a little difficult. Why? Because we have a Gemara later on that sounds like that the day is the Ikar reading, but only because you read it for the second time. The whole idea of Purim is that you read the Megillah and you find out, you realize the miracles that there was Yad Hashem already from the beginning of the Megillah. That only could happen if you read it 2 times. So the Iker reading is yes, the Iker reading is the day reading, but that's only if you read it the night before. So that's a little bit of a difficulty with the Ran's first answer. So he gives a second answer. The second answer he gives is that they actually read it to themselves the night before. They read it b'yechidus. That in and of itself has some difficulties because we know Gemara later on says that you're not really supposed to read the Megillah b'yechidus. The whole Mikras Megillah is something which is connected to Presumei Nisa of having 10 people there to be enforcing the Nes. So, but those are the 2 answers of the Ran. Now, the Meiri gives an answer which gets you out of all these issues. The Meiri says that they would bring a Baki, they would bring an expert to the Krim the night before, and that also, and he says also that he would stay for the next day as well. This Baki would stay for the next day as well to read for the woman, because that's another issue the Meiri brings up. We know that women are just as chayv in men in Mikras and Megillah. The only people that come into to town on Yom HaKnisa were the men. So what are the women who live in the farm? What are they going to do? So he says that this Baki who came in the night before would stay for the next day to read the Megillah. So that's what the Ran writes. See if there's any more things to add. One more point. So we know over here it says in the Mishnah that if you live in a walled city, so you would read on Tezvav. Now, which walled cities are referring to? It says Miyamos Yehoshua ben Nun. So did anyone wonder why the whole story of Purim happened in the times of Achashverosh? It's actually going to be a machlokes. We'll see later on in this parak. Some say that it's any walled city from the time of Achashverosh. That's an opinion in the Gemara. That's one of the Tanaim would disagree with our Tana and say that it has to be walled from the time of Achashverosh, not from the times of Yeshua ben Nun. But according to our Mishnah, why would we say that it should go by the times of Yeshua ben Nun, a walled city from Yeshua ben Nun? Especially considering the reason that we explain of why a walled city reads on Tezvav. That's because an extra special miracle happened to them, that they got an extra day to fight off their enemies, and they rested on Tezvav, unlike the unwalled cities who rested on Yadal. The resting day was Yadal, and the walled cities rested on Tezvav. But why should it go from Yeshua ben Nun? Why should it go from Yeshua ben Nun? So the answer is, that's based off this Ramban that we said over before. He said that if we would say that it goes from the times of Achashverosh, so we would have a big ganai to Eretz Yisrael. Because like we said, there was Jews that were living in Eretz Yisrael at the time. And unfortunately, Eretz Yisrael at the time was still in a state of charbon, was still in a state of destruction, and all the walls in Eretz Yisrael that were built in the time of Yeshua ben Nun were basically destroyed. So if you went from the time of Achashverosh, that means that people who lived in Eretz Yisrael would mostly be keeping Purim on Yadalit and not Tezvav. So as a kavod to Eretz Yisrael, that's what the Ramban points out, as a kavod, you see the importance of how giving kavod to Eretz Yisrael. They made it the takana that it would be from the walls of Yeshua ben Nun. Yeshua ben Nun was the one who came into Eretz Yisrael, and also he fought against Amalek. That's another point. How come it doesn't say from the days of Moshe Rabbeinu? It says from the days of Yeshua ben Nun. Since the whole story of Purim is a fight against Amalek, Yeshua ben Nun also came into Eretz Yisrael and wiped out and took out Amalek from Eretz Yisrael. So we say as a kavod to Eretz Yisrael that we go back from the days of Yeshua ben Nun, that even people who were in Eretz Yisrael at the time of Purim who didn't have a walled city, they would still be reading as a walled city from the days of Yeshua ben Nun on Tezvav as a way to give kavod to Eretz Yisrael. So I think we've covered a lot of the different points on the daf, and B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow we'll continue, finish up this Amud, and perhaps finish up the next as well. If anybody has any suggestions of how we can do this better, or if it's too long, too short, I'm happy to also hear suggestions and to be more flexible. We could even break up into 2 shirim if there's a need. Whatever is needed, you could PM, you could message me afterwards on WhatsApp or call me or whatever you want. And you should also feel free to, you could set up also personal video, Zoom chats or whatever throughout the week. We all the staff, we're all here for you, especially we're here for you all the time, but during these times, I know it's more difficult. You're sitting at home all day. It's difficult for me as well. So it will also be a chesed for me if you set up a time with me to schmooze or to speak or to learn. And everyone should continue to do well. Continue to learn.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Going every night this time?
Yeah, I think so. Is it good?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you to you guys.
Shkach.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night.